freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's Black Desert Championship. It's storylines, it's best bets, and it's the fall one and done. Joining me to break it all down, Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Exciting. Well, exciting's the wrong word. Interesting time of year. You got a lot of news. We got a lot of people saying stuff, trying to make our plans for next year. And you get some interesting quotes. So I thought there was some, with the Ryder Cup Press Conference today, Rory McIlroy playing last week, sharing some of his sentiments. A lot of fallout from that. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get to first. There's going to be a lot of news and notes that we will hit. Patrick McDonald is here. And Patrick, I was going to text you this. I saw your friend on TV.
Oh gosh, I think I know who, but please tell me.
Crooked Cantore.
Yep. Where is he based these days?
Well, he's been in Florida. I mean, he's in Florida now for the foreseeable future as the hurricane bears down. But I saw he's getting a lot of run right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's probably going to be a bad week for the Crooked Cantore take that I had Wyndham Championship week.
The where he was overselling what was happening near you seems like there is no avoiding the devastation that is going to happen, unfortunately.
Yes, Hurricane Joe Milton looks to be a deadly one, unfortunately. Prayers go out to everyone there in Florida. But the Crooked Cantore storyline, maybe there's some hope still. Hopefully he's very crooked. Hopefully this thing finds a way to settle down before it hits landfall. But I am not a meteorologist. I will just do geopolitical conversation, which is where we are headed next. It is early in the show. We've got a lot of energy. Why don't we talk PGA Tour and Live and what joining forces could potentially look like? Greg, we'll start with you because you mentioned it. Rory McIlroy did put some quotes out last week in regards to Live Golf and PGA Tour and what a shared season, a shared tour, a crossover could look like. Rory said, I'd say we'll know by the end of the year whether that's a possibility or not. He's referring to essentially not two tours becoming one, but whatever that crossover looks like. He said, I think all tours are going to keep trucking along and doing their own thing for the foreseeable future. I think the best thing we can hope for is a bit of a crossover between them. That's kind of there's a lot of things to iron out, Greg.
Yes.
Finances, penalties, returns, how access to major all of that stuff. The one thing that is probably one of the more important items that does not get talked about is what this would even look like if some agreement were to come to place. There are only a handful of guys on Live who probably want to see action on the PGA Tour, and the rest of them don't. And what are you going to do? Allow your PGA Tour players to go over there? It's just that part has never really been addressed enough.
No, and it's a very I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, but I just don't see that. I don't see it at all. I mean, you immediately turn it into an exhibition match. It would be, in all likelihood, it would be useless. The only way that it actually makes sense. The only way it actually makes sense is if you were to allow Live players to play the PGA Tour. And I'm not sure they want to. And I know the PGA Tour doesn't want to allow that. So it's a really hard thing to put together. I mean, other than some kind of manufactured format, an event that's played somewhere across the globe, which would be basically just a get together. And played for a lot of money. And it's really difficult for me to see the value in that for fans. It's not really leading to anything. We're just kind of it may as well be the Hero World Challenge, which is fine, but it's not going to be a thing. And so I don't see how these two, let me just start here. I'm sorry for going long here, but ultimately there's an issue with LIV players getting official world golf ranking points because of format. And LIV wants to maintain their new and fresh format, which is a closed circuit league, right? They want to have trades within their league. Guys from out, they want it to be like other sports. A big name player from the Jets gets traded to a big, to a team in Philadelphia or whatever, however all that works. And it makes news and it's a big deal and changes the format of the league. Or they bring in someone from LSU, right, from college, or in this case, from the PGA Tour. And the PGA Tour is playing its events to get to the FedEx Cup, the FedEx Cup Championship in August. So they just don't mix. And I think that's ultimately a really big issue when there's no deal done. I don't see how these, like the DP World Tour, it makes sense for them to mix. They play the same format. They're competing for official world golf ranking points. You go play one event over here, you go play one event over there, and you get back on your tour, and everything is good and dandy. I don't see how it works for LIV PGA Tour.
Let's game this out, Patrick, because I tend to agree with Greg. I don't think there's a lot of player incentive either. I think that 40 of the 50 some odd guys on LIV Golf are just happy with what is going on. And they're going to play their 12 to 14 times a year. They're going to make their guaranteed money plus large purses. And they're going to be just fine about that. I do not believe Kevin Na is dying to get back to PGA Tour events. I do not see that at all. So this is for like the 6 to 12 guys that care. Let's just say Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm is going to be under LIV contract. So he's going to play 12 or 14 events a year. He's going to want to play a couple of national opens. He's probably going to want to play, at Muirfield Village and maybe in Phoenix and obviously the major championships. When you start adding that up, it's a couple of things. It's a lot of golf for Jon Rahm, right? If Jon Rahm is going to actually do all of that, he's going to play about 26 times a year, maybe more, which I don't know if that's reasonable. And he's going to have basically a free pass to go between any tour that he wants. But to Greg's point, if you're playing a team format on LIV Golf, PGA Tour players might not have a free pass to go back and forth, or else it would blow up the format of their league. So this is just a really weird situation that I only think matters for 12 guys, but it's critically important to those 12 guys.
I wouldn't even say 12 guys, because not only does Kevin Na not want to play on the PGA Tour, the PGA Tour probably doesn't want Kevin Na to play on the PGA Tour. There are 3 guys, you could argue maybe 5 or 6, who the PGA Tour probably want back: Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Brooks Koepka. Dustin Johnson, he's probably, let's be honest, going to retire after LIV Golf. He's done with LIV Golf. Maybe a Joaquin Niemann, maybe a Cameron Smith you could add in as well. But outside of that, who is the PGA Tour really missing? So what I would say is this crossover, I think, could be pretty similar to what we just saw there at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. You had 14 LIV Golf players in the competition. You had a LIV Golf player win the entire tournament. You had all of the DP World Tour staples from Rory, Fleetwood, Fitzpatrick playing. You even had Billy Horschel playing and some PGA Tour guys. Andrew Putnam was over there. That kind of came out of the blue. And so if I'm the PGA Tour and I want this to be a crossover, I've said before, I want open borders. I know it's an election year. That's a hot take, but I want open borders in between these tours. I tell the Jon Rahms of the world, if you want to come back to the PGA Tour and pick off OWGR points, wherever it may be, or play in tournaments that you think are important to you, like Phoenix Open for Jon Rahm, since he's from there, retroactively pay fines. You're not in the equity program, and we go on our way. I think that's enough for me, personally, as a golf fan.
I probably agree, because I don't have a better solution. And I honestly don't have another solution. I don't see any other way other than that being the case. Yeah, maybe you don't get access to, I don't know, take away Jon Rahm's pension. I don't think he cares. Take away Jon Rahm's equity stake that he might have earned in the PGA Tour. Let him play. It'll be good for you those weeks that he's here. there's going to be a lot of people who are rubbed the wrong way about it. But if an actual deal gets done, I do not see another way around it.
I don't either. And one of the other issues is, in order to be a member of the PGA Tour, which is an important thing. It's an important, we're playing for cards. This FedEx Cup Fall is all about playing for PGA Tour cards. It's playing for membership. And if it were me, I would say to Jon Rahm, you can play, but you got to play 15 events in order to maintain your membership. Just like on the DP World Tour, you got to play 4. And I think you'd find that it becomes a overwhelming schedule with the events on Live that are mandatory, and the events on the PGA Tour that you would have to get to 15. You're playing and if you play the 4 majors, which Jon Rahm would be eligible for, you're talking about 11 additional events to the schedule.
So
Rahm
Greg,
like 35 times a year.
I was going to move on, but that's interesting. I hadn't considered that before. So if Jon Rahm wants to play in Phoenix, he has to be a PGA Tour member. To get his PGA Tour status, he would have to earn a card in some way, whether that is through a variety of avenues, and he'd have to maintain it. Or would it just become a situation in which Jon Rahm catches sponsors exemptions at any event? I mean, sponsors exemptions are unrestricted, right? They could put Tony Romo in the field. They could put me in the field. They could put Jon Rahm in the field.
Yes, in theory. Now, I'm assuming that Jon Rahm is currently suspended. So I guess the way around that, if you were trying to make friends, right? You're trying to make this work, and I'm not sure that they are or aren't, but you could, in theory, lift the suspension, and then sponsor exemptions would be an option, and you would tick off a lot of your membership doing that. The guys would get really upset about that, because now you're in this situation where you're cherry picking events. And that would be the exact situation of the rich get richer, right? If you're Jon Rahm, you can cherry pick, you could play Live, get the guaranteed money, cherry pick events on the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, majors, right? I mean, you get everything, you get your cake and eat it too. And that would make a lot of players really upset.
The waters are so muddied. I don't know how you clean them at this. Even if there was, right, like I said, a financial agreement, the corporations come together. Half of everybody is going to be upset no matter what happens.
I think there's only one way to clean the waters, and that's Live goes away. Players on Live come back to the PGA Tour, or the PGA Tour goes away and all of those players go to Live, right? I mean, I don't know if there's another option.
The Premier League above both of them, in which they feed into.
Yeah, I mean that could be right. You ran this model eventually. There's a potential that something like that could work. I'm not sure if it's the best on the business end of things for anybody involved, except for probably the players. But yeah, perhaps that is the only other solution. But again, that requires a deal. That requires some sort of deal, some sort of agreement to get done. There's one other thing. I know we want to move on. What if this has problems too, but what if you just had another cup that was PGA Tour versus Live?
I thought you were going to say another league.
No, another league.
So they stay separate, but what, once a year, once every 2 years?
Once every 2 years they play against each other in the Live PGA Tour Cup. Patrick has his President's Cup shirt on.
I think it would do numbies, as the kids say. But why does Jon Rahm want that?
Well, he'd get an opportunity to play for his tour.
He wants to play. He wants to play in majors and the Phoenix Open, and
so it's kind of like when the MLS All-Star team plays Man U.
Right.
Well, I mean, it'd be like, it's two all-star teams playing against each other.
I would like it as an addition. I don't think it's like the solution.
Yeah, I don't either. But if you are the PGA Tour and you're looking for an extra $2 billion,
Yes.
If that's what you're looking for, that's a way to generate some revenue. I don't know if it would generate that much. The Ryder Cup probably has a value somewhere in that neighborhood. Perhaps you could utilize a little rivalry to your advantage. The problem is where LIV gets their players from. That the future for LIV right now, everything's kind of calm and there's not a lot of crossover, and it feels like everybody can just keep going about their merry way. But where does LIV get their next crop of stars from? That answer is probably the PGA Tour. And that's where these things go from calm but muddy to, explosive and very tense very quickly.
Speaking of LIV, nice segue to another topic here, Patrick, because the Ryder Cup captains, Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald, they got together and they're doing the press tour already. Never too early to talk about the Ryder Cup. We are a year out. Keegan on LIV Golfers said, quote, "For us, I'm going to take the 12 best. So I feel like there's a few guys there, 1, 2 guys, whatever it is. Then we are going to do it. We are definitely," his word, "going to take the 12 best players." And then Luke Donald said, "You have to be a member of the European Tour. You've got to be born in Europe. If you fulfill the rules, then you're eligible." And he has said that there are a bunch of LIV guys that are eligible. So it seems like barrier to Ryder Cup for LIV golfers will not be a problem.
Luke Donald all but confirmed John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton will be on the team at Bethpage Black. They both fulfilled their DP World Tour requirements. Hatton did this past week, I believe, when Rahm tees it up at Valderrama in a couple weeks. That'll be 3 DP World Tour starts plus the Olympics, which counts this year. So he will be fulfilled as well. I thought, it's tough looking too much into what these guys are saying a year out from the Ryder Cup, right? Do we really want to analyze everything that's coming out of their mouths? But I felt like each captain had one concern to squash today. Luke Donald was, what are you going to do with John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton? He answered that pretty point blank. And then I thought for Keegan Bradley, he needed to come to a decision on the playing captaincy. And it seems to me like he's kind of been flip-flopping a little bit. In July during his introductory press conference, he said he really wants to be a playing captain, make the team on his own volition. After the President's Cup, he was like, "Oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine being a player and also being a captain. That'd be so difficult." And then back to today, he's like, "It's a Ryder Cup year. I want to make the team." And so if I'm Luke Donald, I'm probably coming out of that press conference, again, not looking too much into it, as a pretty happy camper. Keegan admitted he was behind on stuff. He admitted he's playing catch up. He admitted having to play the President's Cup. He didn't have the last couple weeks to look at the Ryder Cup. He admitted he didn't know there were course changes to Bethpage Black. He admitted he didn't really know when he's last allowed to get eyes on the golf course before the Ryder Cup. And you talk about Jim Furyk and his captaincy and how much smoother it went the second time compared to the 2018 Ryder Cup, the 2024 President's Cup, and how much more prepared he was. It seems just, again, not looking too much into it, a year out, Keegan Bradley is very much behind the 8 ball as opposed to Luke Donald, who just did it and did it very damn well.
Well, it is interesting, Greg, because Luke Donald obviously still an active golfer, but nowhere near as active as Keegan Bradley is, who is very much on the tour, playing the week-to-week grind, winning golf tournaments. Luke Donald tees it up, gets to play with potential Ryder Cup players, gets to see their game up close and personal. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Luke Donald is living and dying with every single shot that he's hitting on the circuit in the way that Keegan seems to be right now, for good or for bad. So it is just a little bit of a different dynamic when Keegan has so much on his plate regularly, and now, oh yeah, here's this massive project. You're the Ryder Cup captain.
For Luke Donald, he mentioned the PGA Tour champions, having 3 years to go for that, and that would be very unlikely that he plays his way onto the team. So I think you're right. You could tell from the tone of this press conference that is not anywhere close to his mind. I'm sure he would like it, but that's not a goal. where for Keegan, it very much is. And that leads to some really big decisions. You know, I think it was Keegan kind of backed off the hard and fast top 6. If I'm top 6, I'll play. If I'm not, I won't kind of thing, which is a good idea because if he's number 7, if a captain left off number 7 who's able to play and you leave off the guy that's 7 in the points, is that a good pick? Probably not. So that's a difficult spot for Keegan Bradley to navigate. The other thing is there's a great system that the Europeans have in place. You know, every time I listen to Paul McGinley talk about it, he's always using the word we. You know, we have this system. He's got Dodo in place, who's a vice captain. It seems like there's a bunch of previous captains who are all still very much involved. And this is a well-oiled machine where you kind of follow this system that has been laid out before you that works, that very clearly works. And so it's a whole lot easier a year out to know where you are in the process. Where for Keegan Bradley, one, does the system that we have on the American side work? That's a big question. 2, you know, do you know the system like Luke Donald does, who's now captain for the 2nd Ryder Cup in a row? Probably not. And so you're chasing a little bit as a result. And I think that was clear today. I think it's understandable. I think there's a lot of time, but that time disappears pretty quickly, especially come January when Keegan Bradley, who's in all the signature events, is going to be out there playing and hoping to, you know, vie for titles.
It will be fascinating to see, especially as we get closer to the Ryder Cup, how well Keegan Bradley is playing and whether that ends up becoming a benefit or maybe even a crutch, maybe something to hamper his captaincy. We are going to turn our attention to Utah. That is a statement that I have never said in my lifetime about the PGA Tour. And we're going to get you picks. We're going to get you one and done. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
And we're back. Patrick, 60 years and a little bit more, 61 years or so between the PGA Tour stops in the state of Utah. This is going to at least be on the schedule for 4 years. That's the initial agreement for the Black Desert Championship held at Black Desert Resort. Greg and I talked about this a little bit on Monday, so we'll start here with you, Pat. It's going to look awesome on TV. It's going to look sick on TV.
Producer Josh gave me some homework, said, hey, I just happened to come across this flyover of the course. Maybe you should check it out too. So I took it as homework. I watched it at 2x speed. Tom Weiskopf was narrating it, and it appeared that the course was still being finished. There was a lot of construction going on. So obviously a new course. It's a resort course, which yet to realize it's for resort play typically, which means you'll probably see a lot of birdies. There's elevation out there. The lava rock will be very prevalent. And the narration from Weiskopf was just fun. He goes, number 3 here at Black Desert. I don't know if you've seen Riviera before, that one hole with the bunker on the par 3. We did something like that here too.
Yes. I think it's 6 or 7 at Riviera. I think it's 6, the par 3 on that edge of the property. It's a little donut hole. There's a bunker in the middle of the green. There is one of those at Black Desert Resort as well. It is a brand new golf course, Greg. So the infrastructure of this area getting bigger with the resort, getting bigger with the golf course, and obviously having a PGA Tour stop. There's so much stuff that goes into an event like this, but from the tour side, 51 and on. Right. That's the guys that have the most to play for into 2025. Mackenzie Hughes currently holds that 51st spot. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, access to the first handful of signature events to start your 2025 off with a bang.
It gets you in a position where you know your schedule, at least for the first couple of months, which can be a big deal. And then you can start to make some plans and contingencies. And if you're not in those signature events, you're basically in a position where you're playing any chance you get. They tell you where you're playing rather than you deciding where you want to play, which is a big disadvantage. You want to be able to have access to those signature events for the elevated points, elevated purses. We saw how big of an effect that had on the FedEx Cup playoffs this season as well. So it becomes a whole lot more difficult if you're playing in the, full field events, as they're called on the PGA Tour, the non-signature events. If you're only playing in those, it becomes a whole lot more difficult to carve your path to the playoffs at the end of the year. So this becomes a very important fall. Now, there are also players that are outside the top 125 that need to lock up their card so they have the chance to play in those full field events, because as the schedule has turned out, and there's kind of, in a way, two tours that lightly mix throughout the year, it becomes difficult for these players to get starts and get into events. You got new Korn Ferry Tour guys coming out. You got past champions getting their starts. You got a lot of players who don't even have full status, who have opportunities to play at given times, and those fields fill up pretty quick. So you want to make sure you get your card, get inside that top 125. And those are kind of the two barriers, 60 and better, and that top 125 mark are the two areas we're really paying attention to.
Already a quarter of the way through the FedEx Cup fall, including this week, 6 events remaining to get those tickets punched to your tour card for next year, or for those first 2 signature events, Pebble Beach and Riviera. And Patrick, like Greg alluded to, there are 30 guys from the Korn Ferry Tour licking their chops to get ready to rock and roll in January. It's not going to get any easier if you're on the bubble right now.
And remember last year at the Sony Open, when a lot of those Korn Ferry Tour guys were struggling just to get into the Gen Pop events, right? Based on all the different levels of criteria, they were towards the bottom. And remember when the PGA Tour had rookie orientation at the Sony Open, the second week of the year, and like none of them were in the field, and so they flew them out to Hawaii just for orientation. Yeah. So yeah, obviously the 30 from the Korn Ferry Tour, we saw Matt McCarty, who won, play last week at the Sanderson Farms Championship, make the cut. A number of guys who we have seen before, like Trevor Cohn, Virginia Tech legend, got his tour card for the second time as well. And like Greg mentioned, I'm looking at that 125 bubble a bit more this week as opposed to the top 60. Just because of the names who are on it. Michael Thor Bjornsson's just on the outside looking in, the kid who just won the PGA Tour University last year. And then Daniel Berger. I'm sure you guys talked about him yesterday, but Daniel Berger, we've talked about it on this show before, got hurt at the most inconvenient time in the history of professional golf. He finally
seriously
a little form last week. He climbed inside the top 130, closer to the top 125, the top 125. You obviously get the tour card, but you also get a spot in the Players Championship too, which is the biggest purse on the PGA Tour all year. That was the biggest winner's check in 2024. And so those two names in particular have my interest this week.
Yeah, Daniel Berger, low estimates, probably missed out on tens of millions of dollars getting hurt at the time that he did.
He'd be on the 4 aces right now, probably.
Yeah, or he would have just picked up like 150 and gone to live. Here's what we're gonna do. Let's start naming some names here, because Josh has the grid queued up here. So if you have never seen this before, we take $100. We find a matchup that we like for 50, a finishing position that we like for 30, 2 separate outrights for 10 each. So let's start with that matchup, Greg. Somebody that we did talk about a bit on Monday's show. What did you find?
I found Andrew Novak over Alex Smalley. Alex Smalley played great golf last week, but I'm looking at Andrew Novak and the consistency that he has shown. Very good all-around player. He could struggle around the greens and can be hit or miss with the putter, but I love what he does from a ball striking perspective. I think he's going to give himself a ton of birdie opportunities that we haven't really seen the upside from him. Alex Smalley put together a great performance last week, but his game across the board seems to be much more hit or miss. He had a great ball striking performance last week, gained 8 strokes ball striking, but lost strokes ball striking in the 2 previous events before that. His putter can get hot like it did last week, but it's also been cold in the past. I feel like there's a lot more for Alex Smalley to put together in order to have a good week. Andrew Novak seems to be the steady one, so I went with him at -125.
Yeah, I mentioned it also yesterday. Almost every model that I ran, Andrew Novak's name was a top 8, top 10 name. So just somebody that just kept popping up at the top of the board. Patrick, you and I are very close here. We have the same golfer. I found a 3-ball. You have a proper matchup. So tell me what matchup you've gone with, please.
I went with Seamus Power +105 over Keith Mitchell. I love Keith Mitchell in general. I feel like he's probably a top 10 guy on the PGA Tour to have a beer with. But, man, that loss last week was brutal, absolutely brutal. 2-stroke lead with 5 to play, a 3-putt on the 18th hole. Just it felt like vintage Keith Mitchell, which I hate to say, and his ball striking has been tremendous. But I feel like that'll really take a toll on him. And then you're giving me Seamus Power plus money, who has been super well-rounded. He's been playing golf, played at the Irish Open, top 30 there, played last week at the Sanderson Farms, top 15 there. And like I mentioned, a really well-rounded nature of his game right now. And with maybe some question marks about how this course will play, I'd rather take that over Mitchell, whose power might get mitigated a little bit with the altitude.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. And then I just threw in Kurt Kitayama, and I just don't really know why he's getting the level of respect that he's getting. We haven't seen him play a lot of golf recently. He's got the 3rd shortest odds to win this golf tournament. I think it might be an okay fit for him, not a great fit for him. I don't know. It's just kind of a bizarre situation for me. Either this line is talking and I'm not listening, or this is a big screw up here. So mine is Seamus Power over Keith Mitchell and Kurt Kitayama in a 3-ball, and my number obviously longer than Patrick's at +190. Patrick, I'm going to bounce it right back to you here because I can already see the makings of a potential perfect grid because you have gone to a different tour for your finishing position.
Yes, I believe I originally coined these bets the Jackie Chan play when you have one from each tour, but I want to give it to the actual name of the – I'm looking at it now, the Around the World in 80 Days. It's the Phileas Fogg play. He was the gentleman adventurer from the movie.
Okay, I did not originally get that, but Around the World. Okay, got it. So now we're all on the same page. Makes sense. Thank you very much.
So we're going to Shanghai, and we're going to the LPGA where Rose Zhang will finish inside the top 10 at +130. She hasn't been playing great golf, to tell you the truth, on the LPGA, but she was awesome at the Solheim Cup last month, and it's not the best field for LPGA standards, so I think she can get it done at that price for sure.
Touch of plus money for Rose Zhang to finish inside the top 10. I went with Lanto Griffin. I think that he's kind of back at a really good number. All I need him to do is finish inside the top 30 at +210. Greg, round us out here. You also found a top 30.
Hashtag good pick with Lanto Griffin. I like that. I have gone with Justin Lauer, top 30 at +130. He's been really good, really consistent across the board. His last 2 events have been top 30 finishes. It includes a T7, and the 2 events before that were T33s. His putting has been phenomenal. His iron play has been phenomenal. I think he has plenty in the tank to get it done off the tee here as well. So I like Justin Lauer, top 30 at +130.
Now 2 separate outrights, and these can come from anywhere. Greg, right back to you. We'll snake this back around. Please give us both of your outrights, please.
Okay, so we're going to go we're going to go around the world like Patrick here. The potential for the perfect grid still lives on in my world. This, of course, is the French Open taking place at Le Golf National, which I'm excited about. I think it's a great venue, hosts great championships time and time again. And I have gone with Thorbjorn Olesen, also known as the Thunder Bear. And I'm pretty excited about this play. He has a good record here, for one. He's come in second here. He played the Ryder Cup here as well. Many people forget. In 2 out of his last 3 events, he's got top 12 T12s. Missed the cut at the BMW PGA. He's been putting really well. Iron play seems to be simmering in the right direction. I like Thunder Bear at 18-1. And then on the PGA Tour, I like someone, Rick, you and I talked about yesterday. That's Harry Hall. Harry Hall, known to be a great putter, really important in these birdie fests to have the ability to get it going on the greens. He can do that. But we've also seen a significant uptick in his ball striking. I think you could see some success out of Harry Hall, who's comfortable playing at similar altitudes to this.
Completely agree. And it's a great segue to my card, which also has Harry Hall at 50-1 and also has a winner for the French Open. And that for me is Tom McKibben, who was playing some great golf for the last handful of months. And I just think he's getting lost in the shuffle here. I still think he's playing well enough to pull one of these off and not looking at kind of the bigger names at the top of the board. I think this number has slid a little bit. Patrick. Oh, yes. Yes. Please present to me. I would love it. This is just these 2 guys winning would be good vibes all around. Who'd you get?
It would be. I'm going with Rasmus Højgaard at 16-1 to win the FedEx French Open, new presenting sponsor this year.
Oh boy.
Talk about a strategic alliance activating right in front of our very eyes. A true where were you moment. Greg, you mentioned Thunder Bears history here. Rasmus, 2nd in 2022, 4th in 2023. He had the win at the Irish Open. His iron play has been red hot as of late. Missed the cut at the Alfred Dunhill Links. Rick, I'm looking at another stat website here. The off the tee numbers, I have no idea what happened, but they don't look great from last week. So I'm just going to say he might have lost a few golf balls off the tee. He won't do that this week. And here in Utah, stateside, out west, which I think we can all agree upon, I have Daniel Berger to win at 60-1, 7th place finish last week, 4-time winner on the PGA Tour, former top 10 player in the world, former U.S. Ryder Cup member, and that was his best finish since the 2022 Memorial, I believe. Game throughout the bag, good ball striking, gotta have it.
Gotta have it. Yes, we could all agree that Utah is in the West. Also, that's a pretty big come up to go from the Kazoo Open de France to the FedEx Open de France. Kazoo is a British online car retailer based in London, a London company.
I kind of like their logo. The A's a car.
The A's a car. Although FedEx has a good use of negative space as well in their logo.
Yes. A true glass-shattering moment when you see the arrow.
Exactly. If you haven't seen it, go look. Cross your eyes. That might help. I am with Patrick because my bonus bet, so Josh, if you want to flip us over here, our kind of last crack at this, the extra 50, we can put on anything that we want, has also gone to Daniel Berger, though I've gone for a top 10. That is 4-1. I am trying to be early rather than late on Daniel Berger. The pedigree is there. I believe the time is now. Greg, this name was just in the winner's circle recently. What'd you find?
General Patton Kazire,
Sure.
top 30 plus 140, coming off a win, coming off a tied 11th. He's gained across the board essentially in his last 2 events. He lost about a half a shot off the tee last week. But other than that, his putting has been really strong. His iron play has been really strong. And it has for a while, even leading into the win. Even though he missed the cut at the 3M and the Wyndham, before that, things were turning a corner. And it was just a little bit off in those 2 events where he missed the cut. Then he comes back with a win at T11. I think this could be a good spot for Patton Kazire. And all I need is a top 30. But at 0 for 2 so far in this fall season, I need a win. I need a win on the board bad. So I'm going with the General.
Yeah, you and me both. I should have gone with something that wasn't 4-1. Patrick, you do not need a win. You are winning at a prolific rate. What did you find that is going to get you even deeper into the black?
Little unlucky last week with Rory McIlroy to win the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. I think we can all agree those pairings got to his head. I would have probably opted for Tyrrell Hatton if I had seen the tee sheet beforehand.
Yeah,
but
sure, of course.
I'm going with a guy who played well at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship to complete the Phileas Fogg play of the week, and that's Padraig Harrington to win the, I don't know if it's SAS or the SAS Championship, Software as a Service. I'm going with Patty Harrington to win at 6-1. He's played some really good golf on the DP World Tour. He T12 at the BMW PGA, iron play in Fuego, T25 there at the old course too. Iron play again, very good. The history isn't great in this tournament, which I don't love, but 2 times a winner already this season on the Champions Tour. I think he makes it 3 this week.
Patrick, I have how many events are left in this fall? For
the Champions Tour?
No.
6.
Patrick, if you hit this one, you could lock up your car. You could lock up the black for the fall.
I know. It's that's kind of the nature of the game I play, Greg, where if you hit one, you just start spraying. It's kind of like roulette, right? You hit a first 12 on your first roll, and then all of a sudden you're throwing it on numbers, you're throwing it on all crazy combinations, even the 0 at one time, and you look down an hour later, you have an empty glass and you have an empty wallet.
Don't worry about that.
It's something called a parlay.
So good. Well, to put a bow on that, SAS Institute, which is the main sponsor of that event, is a developer of analytics and artificial intelligence software based in Cary, North Carolina.
Oh, Cary. I have some friends up there.
This event is in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Well, there you go.
That's right by Cary.
Seems to make sense. Seems to be good. Okay, that's Daniel Berger top 10, Pat and Desire top 30. Patty Harrington to get the win. There's only one thing left to do. That pesky little one and done. But Josh, first, I think what we'll do is we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
And we're back. To call our one and done a pillow fight would be a disservice to pillows everywhere. Greg currently leads with $63,000, which is only $63,000 more than Mark has in dead last. So this has been a slow start, small pools. We've put the rules on ourselves where we cannot pick anybody that we've already used in 2024. We cannot pick any of the guys who are inside the top 50. So if, for example, if Tony Finau would have played this event, we would not have been able to pick him. That's how those rules work. Mark, trying to get off the schneid, has gone with Lucas Glover. He has currently $0. Good chance that changes this week. Josh, going to battle with Seamus Power. He has 26,100. Patrick, he is hot on your heels. He is only $120 behind you. Who have you selected for this week?
I don't know what you're talking about. I am completely dusting Josh at the moment, getting smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. I went with Daniel Berger. I think I'm at the point of this competition, only 2 events in, where I'm hoping to make money every week, but the smallest amount possible, because the way this is trending early is it's a bit of a pillow fight between all of us.
Yeah, that $7,000 gap from Patrick to myself doesn't seem like much because it's not. I'm going with Harry Hall. We've discussed that ad nauseum this week. And Greg, a monstrous $30,000 lead.
Settle down.
Trying to just defend your season-long crown. Your pick for this week is?
My pick for this week is Patton Kizzire, the general. And let's say I think he's going to play great. Like I said in the best segment, I think he's playing great. He's available. He's on the table. I'm going to roll with him.
Patton Kizzire for Greg, Harry Hall for myself, Daniel Berger for Patrick, Seamus Power for Josh, Lucas Glover for Mark. I think I'm going to put a pin in it there. We have a couple of really good questions and emails that have come in to Josh's email inbox, firstcutpodcast@gmail.com. I want to give them the due and proper kind of response time. So I don't want to just jam it in here at the end of the show. We might have a episode coming up where we could rock those out. There's actually a week. I think it's not next week. There's a week after in which there's not a PGA Tour event. So it might be a good time to go through some of these, but there are some really good ones in here. If you have any more, again, it's firstcutpodcast@gmail.com. Boys, any final thoughts? Anything else before we get out of town?
Looking forward to the week. Lava rocks, elevation changes, Patton Kizzire getting back in the mix. I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. And the French Open, which is great. Golf. I love watching golf at Le Golf National, so I'll be tuning into that as well.
All right, 1 year out from the 2025 Ryder Cup. Yes or no? Keegan Bradley is playing on the U.S. team this time next year at Bethpage Black.
No.
Did you both say no?
We did.
Yeah, we both said no.
Okay. And so did Josh.
As much as I would like that, the facts are he is a boomer bust golfer, and if he does not win between now and then, he's probably not going to have enough points to play onto the team. I also think he will not pick himself unless it's like quite obvious. You're going to add live golfers to the mix. I also think that he's going to find playing a lot between now and then and the work that needs to be done, that playing and captaining might not be great. I just think there's a lot of paths to him not playing on that team.
Okay. I'm going to say yes, just so we don't get, the panel all one answer and then the other thing happens. So
smart.
You're welcome.
Smart.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if he plays, he probably like won once or twice and he probably played great golf, which would be cool. But
and it'd be great content.
Oh, it'd be great content.
Yeah.
Where's he going to put himself? Where's he? Just the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Netflix.
Oh, it'll be good. It'll be good. All right, boys. Well, we will be back on Sunday to recap the week that was in golf. But for now, I'm going to say big thanks to producer Josh. He does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, available at The Real GFD. Patrick McDonald at P McDonald CBS. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.